Curtis Houck is here, managing editor at MRC Newsbusters, to talk about how slanted they really are. Hi, Curtis.
Hey, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
It has been. So, I mean, we're an ABC affiliate. Everybody knows it. We have ABC News, top and bottom of the hour. They do actually sometimes report the news. It's a rare moment of journalism integrity. But for the most part, they're just an attack claw for the left.
Yeah, generally so. I think maybe sometimes when you don't have as much time, like top and bottom of the hour, like that, it kind of forces you to kind of compartmentalize a little bit and kind of get to the point. Whereas I think maybe that's why PBS, in many cases, is the most agonizing and the most frustrating, and same with NPR, because they have all the time in the world to bloviate.
Yeah. Well, and you know, even in the 5 minutes that they have at the top of the hour, tariffs. Oh, look, we found a guy who hates them. Let's put him on the air. They don't want to talk to any of the ones who are all about it, like the UAW and the steelworkers and everybody else. They don't want to talk to those people. They want to talk about the guy who says, I'm going to have to pay more for my screwdriver. You know, that's the guy they put on the air.
Well, I would just say on that, I think the coverage that was provided last night on the CBS Evening News, our Jorge Bonilla has a piece at Newsbusters by one of their money correspondents, Kelly O'Grady, who just came a hot second ago from Fox Business. So she's got a little bit more balance and actual journalistic bona fides with her coming to her way, and she suggested to everybody basically her in-out. You know, everybody take a breath. You know, here's the worst case scenario. Here's the best case scenario. It's probably going to be somewhere in the middle, actually. You know, like a lot of things in life.
And any time people are unsure, the stock markets freak out. I mean, Biden falls off his bicycle. All of Wall Street, takes a tumble with him. It's like every little tiny thing affects the stock market. They can talk about, oops, there's a storm in Iran. Let's have the stock market go crazy. So the fact that they're saying that this is all like something new, that this is so terrible, the stock markets are falling. This is something that happens regularly. So the fact that they try to brand it as a Trump-esque thing to happen is silly.
Well, I'll just say, I mean, the only concern, obviously, is, A, if this continues, and particularly on the S&P 500, because of folks that may be looking to retire within the next year or so. And that's obviously a huge concern. But for somebody like myself in my 30s, stay with it. CBS's other money correspondent, Jill Schlesinger, always says in these situations, do not pull your money out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in your 30s or 40s or 20s, do not panic.
Yeah, let it ride.
When it comes to stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas if you're close to retirement, that's why there's financial advice. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I don't have any money in the stock market, so it's knocks next to me. But I find it highly offensive that anybody can say they care about a retiring anybody. I don't care where you work or what political party you're with. If your company is invested in Tesla, the domestic terrorists who are hell-bent on trying to make the company fail, they are the ones taking your money away.
Yeah, I would just say, on the Tesla story, what we have found at Newsbusters is it's not zeros across the board. So, caution listeners to not think that this story isn't being covered. It is, but it's being underbaked. It's just kind of like these things, more fires at Tesla dealerships, or this person was arrested today for the fire at Tesla. There's not you don't get the tinge, that you often get sometimes with the media, where they're clearly miffed or mad or sad about something. It's kind of just reported in a straightforward fashion, which normally would be fine. However, because when we see officer-involved shootings anywhere, no matter the circumstances of what led up to that, they completely lose their noodles over that. And so I think that's the difference here. And let's be honest, there are a few things in life that are more a pain in the butt than having to deal with car insurance. Let's be honest. And all those poor people now have to deal with their insurance. Even if you're rich, you still have to sit on the end of a phone line and have to go through the claims process.
Exactly. Well, you know, they were doing Signalgate with the whole thing with Trump, and ABC, NBC, CBS could not let it go. They gave it a lot of airtime.
Yeah, no, I think this was interesting that our Bill D'Agostino looked at was like, okay, so let's do let's get a Signalgate number, but like a lot of times, you know, you've had us on for a lot of our studies over the years. We try to find a counterpoint. We try to find something else to compare it to. Mm-hmm. Well, this one's really easy because let's do coverage of the actual airstrikes of which the Signalgate chat was about.
Right.
And so we found about 14 minutes of coverage, 1347. On the Houthi strikes, and then Signalgate over the same equal number of newscasts, 99:40, so about 100 minutes. So it's about 100 to 14. So do some math there, of which I'm not very good at, but someone else did. Yeah. Seven times, just over 7 times, 7 1/4. That's pretty remarkable stuff.
Because they want to prove ineptitude. They want to prove ineptitude, and it's just not going to happen. Pete Hegseth is going to be amazing. Now they're making fun of J.D. Vance getting off an airplane in Greenland. They say, he's waving at no one. He's such a nice guy. He would wave at people who were getting off a plane. You know, it was Obama who ignored the Marines, and it was Biden who fell down the steps and waved at crowds that were not there. So,
well, let's put it this way. J.D. Vance grew up in a small town, so his definition of a lot of people is a lot different than some of these journos who grew up in, you know, the D.C. or New York area.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, the way that they slant it, though, if it can be made negative about the appointees or the people who have now taken over the offices who were appointed by Trump, they will go out of their way to try to make them look like clowns.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay tuned. Within the next month or so, we'll be having our first positive-negative Trump study thus far once we formally cross the 100-day mark. And spoiler alert, it's more of the same from the liberal media.
Yeah.
And in fact, the appointees, the cabinet members, are doing worse, is in being treated more negatively than the Trumpster himself currently.
You know what I found extremely odd to me? That they are so upset about this gang member being sent away on an airplane and the president not bowing to the will of a judge when the airplane was already in the air. They're more upset about that and give no coverage to the fact that he took out the leader of MS-13, and I can't remember her name. She was just on. I was watching her talk about how they are rounding up MS-13 gang members by the dozens and taking them into custody and getting them out of circulation on our streets. But we can't get any coverage of that. They just want to talk about this one guy.
0 seconds on the MS-13 gang leader on ABC, CBS, and NBC. Just about 12 minutes on CNN and MSNBC. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. And I would go a step further to say these networks have not shown anywhere near the same level of coverage, a few news briefs here or there, on some of the people actually murdered by illegal immigrants. There was a recent story, a murder a few years ago in Georgia that was revealed to have been allegedly committed by an illegal alien. There was coverage of the Laken Riley trial just because it kind of fits the mold of, unfortunately, a Lifetime movie, you know, the kind of, or true crime podcast world. But Rachel Moore and Jocelyn Nungray, those two, though, second or two there.
But it took them forever to do it, really, and they don't really want to say her name. They don't want to say her name.
Exactly.
And Laken Riley. I want people to know she had a future. She had a life. So did everyone else who was murdered by these people. And I want to know where
Rachel Moore was a mother.
Yeah. And I want to know where all the little kids who came across the border who we can't even find, what happened to them? No one's worried about that. They want to worry about one guy who's probably a gang member who got on a plane. Should he have gone to that prison? I don't know. But it's a pretty simple fix if we want to get it done. But
yeah, they don't
do
want them to go to Guantanamo, where we actually know where they are. But, but they also don't want us to send to El Salvador, where we turn them over to another government who will take care of them for us, and then we can't keep track of them.
Well, you know what? I don't want them in Guantanamo because I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay to feed them and wipe their butts. I don't want to pay. I'd rather have them in El Salvador. But anybody who is in gang activity needs to be shipped out and back to whatever country they came from. I love that Colombia's on board. I never thought that would happen.
Yeah. Oh no, they're civil rights. Oh my gosh. Oh no, they need due process. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that has to be one of the more pathetic things I've seen in my career. The concern for their civil rights. Yeah. What about the rights of Americans during COVID lockdowns?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now I just can't make it make sense. Just with this Mancini kid who killed the healthcare CEO, where Joy Behar says we should really not consider the death penalty because so many people like him. I'm like, I was just yelling about this a few minutes ago on the show. These are the kinds of things that the leftist media focus on. They're folk heroes who are violent criminals.
Yeah, late night host Taylor Tomlinson, who's soon about to self-cancel her show on CBS that comes on after Colbert, recently said, so a few hours ago at this point, that Luigi Mangione has shown men how to attract women.
Wow. Oh, they were calling him the executee. That tells you all you need to know about them. But this I can't remember her name. The black woman, the representative who keeps screaming and using foul language.
Yeah, Jasmine Crockett, but I refer to her as Congresswoman Joy Reid.
Yeah, because she is like calling for the death of Trump. I mean, she's like saying it.
Yeah, she wants Ted Cruz punched. She's kind of insinuated a lot of different things. She said all she wants for her birthday is someone to take out Elon Musk. She's very crazy. At the PBS NPR hearing last week, she suggested that Republicans want to cancel all forms of media and all media outlets except for Fox News, which is like, what?
So stupid.
Yeah, if she suddenly code switches and starts using foul language, that means she's fighting. That means she's doing something in the eyes of the leftist base, to which I say, what?
Yeah. She's AOC on steroids, if you ask me, and I think she should be censured. But I loved where she was talking about you can't impeach a judge. You can't do that. It's just impeachment is such a strong thing. And then I think it was Tiller or somebody who said, yeah, well, you were the co-signer on AOC's 3 times trying to impeach these other people. So basically shut up and sit down.
Oops.
So, yeah, that happened. But what we have here is a direct slant of our news, and the left will not admit it. And if you know facts, like I get emails from the White House, I speak to our congressman, I know what's going on, I understand the tariffs, I'm literally informed. If I say something to somebody, they're like, oh, so you watch Fox News? I'm like, literally don't. I mean, I don't really watch any news that's slanted one way or the other. But if I watch one, I watch the other one to see what they're both saying.
It doesn't take that long. It just takes a few minutes.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people.
All right. So the news is slanted. Curtis and I both know it. The rest of you need to get with the program. How do people, just saying, how do they find out just the simplicity of the way you put out there the way the news is slanted? Mm-hmm. Where do they find the info?
Yeah. Newsbusters.org, at Newsbusters on X, at Newsbusters on Facebook. I'm at Curtis Houck, CurtisHouck.
Curtis Houck. Thank you so much, bruh.
Thanks.
See ya.